I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. And you're just like, yes, you are Batman. You are Batman, Kevin Conroy, forever and always. Hello and welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List. I hate to say it, but winter is here.
Winter is here. There's inches of snow outside. Ice
a lot
covered,
of snow this morning. We're recording this morning. I thought it was supposed to stop Tuesday. And then, it was like more today than the last few days combined.
Yeah. And it didn't even say it was, it said an inch.
Yeah.
And it's my driveway, there's a lot more than an inch.
But with the winter time means if you want some place to stay warm, great time to be in the movie theaters.
That's right.
Great time to cuddle up for some movies. We're going to talk about some of those that you have a chance to watch this weekend. But first things first, we're going to kick things off with the opening spotlight. On a little bit of a sadder note, unfortunately, last Friday, Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, I would argue he is Batman, unfortunately, passed away last Friday. I kind of talked to you about this before the show. This death kind of hit me a little bit because I've seen so many versions of him through all sorts of media. If you talk to most Batman fans, if they're reading a comic or where there isn't a voice already, you picture it in Kevin Conroy's voice.
Yep.
This guy's been doing this character for, since the early 90s, so 30 years.
Yep. If you've seen any of the animated ones, a majority of them, that's him.
Yeah.
That's his voice.
You can look at all the actors who have played Batman, and they've all been good. I don't have a problem with a lot of them, but when people talk about Kevin Conroy, a lot of people are like, "That's Batman." There's no real complaints with that. So we thought we would kind of honor him a little bit. I'm gonna go over my top 5 favorite Kevin Conroy moments as the Caped Crusader. This was a tough list for me to figure out. And there's some here that I think maybe people won't agree being in the top 5. So if you were a Kevin Conroy fan or you're a Batman fan, let us know what some of your favorites are. But number 5, then I'm going to kick things off with Batman the Animated Series, Season 1, Episode 32, the one where Adam West guest starred.
Yep.
Obviously, Adam West was known as the 60s Batman. However, they brought him in on an episode for Batman the Animated Series where he played a character called the Gray Ghost. This is one of my favorite episodes because it gave sort of a different piece of the puzzle to Batman's origin, one that we hadn't really seen in any other media. But also, it was just so awesome to hear 2 voices of Batman at the same time, working together.
As a kid, I used to watch you with my father. The Gray Ghost was my hero.
So it wasn't all for nothing.
Number 4, Crisis on Infinite Earths event on the CW. This is a part of the Arrowverse. The Crisis on Infinite Earths is their huge multiverse event.
Yep.
Obviously, people are familiar with Marvel's multiverse event in the movies recently, but Crisis on Infinite Earths is their thing. They did an episode where Kevin Conroy, this was one of the few times he voiced Batman and did it in a live action sense.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people going into this were kind of worried, well, how is he going to do it? And I think they did it very perfectly. And they were also really smart in this episode because before we see him, the first thing you do is you hear the voice off screen. And when I remember watching that episode, and the second I heard it, I was like, Batman is here. Yep. Batman is in the Arrowverse, and it's voiced by Kevin Conroy, and is here as Kevin Conroy. Yeah. It was perfect. It was a great moment. And then the Arrowverse kind of faltered after that. But, we don't have to talk about that. Was a peak. It was a peak for me. Number 3, Batman Arkham Knight video game. One of the most famous Batman lines is, I am vengeance. I am the knight. I am Batman.
Yep.
Most people would consider his most famous version of saying that was in the Batman the Animated Series. There's a Scarecrow episode where he says that. I like the one that he says in Batman Arkham Knight more.
I am vengeance. I am the knight. I am Batman.
Because at this point in the video game, it's more of a psychological battle with the Joker, but he's putting away the Joker forever. So for me, him saying that line in this moment was way more impactful because he was defeating his greatest villain forever. Like in this version, in this universe, Joker was defeated. He's done. Spoilers to those of you who haven't played the Arkham. It's like 10 years old at this point, which made me feel really old. But number 2, this isn't a part of any official episode, and I can't remember the show or podcast he was on, but basically these guys asked, he was being interviewed on there, and they printed out the ending monologue from The Dark Knight. In case I haven't said it before, The Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies of all time. And that ending monologue is a great ending to that movie. So they asked him to read part of it.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I can do those things because I'm not a hero. Not like Dent. I killed those people. That's what I can be.
He basically reads it first try and nails it. This is how good of a professional he was. He took a monologue that was already done really well by Christian Bale, I think. Not to take away from that. But he did it his own way, and it was awesome. And like they start applauding him afterwards, and even I started applauding. I've watched it like 3-4 times this week, and I miss you, man. I miss
Love
you.
it every time.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry. But let's move on to number 1 in my book. This is one of my favorite Kevin Conroy Batman moments. Justice League Unlimited, Season 2, Episode 26, also known as The Death of Ace. There's so much context that goes into this episode for many reasons. I'm not going to have time to get into all that. But all you need to know is a character named Ace, who has extremely powerful psychological powers, has grown, and unfortunately, due to all the testing that this military group has done on her, she's unfortunately going to die. And Amanda Waller, who's a big character in this series, is like, you're going to have to kill her. Otherwise, she's going to take down like this whole city basically with her. And Batman's like, I'll do it. And he's like, I'm the only one she's going to let get close to her or whatever. And Amanda's like, you realize you're going to break your code by doing this. He's like, I know the risk. He goes in. And he immediately finds Ace, and she's just like swinging on a swing set because she's just a child. You know, that's kind of the dark part about this, is that she's this child who's been experimented on. And she's like telling her how her childhood was robbed, and Batman just goes, I know what that feels like. And she's like, you do, don't you? And they have this heart-to-heart moment, and it is the least action-y moment of Batman, but is one of his greatest moments, because he literally just sits down with her and talks with her and comforts her. He holds her hand, because she can read his mind. That's one of her powers. She's like, I know you're not going to use the weapon against me. He's like, no, I was never going to. She's like, I'm going to die real soon, aren't I? Yep. He's like, will you be with me? And it's just, it makes me tear up.
Sounds raw, yeah.
It's an emotional episode, and it's not the most toughest part of Batman. It's the parts where he shows that little bit of humanity that is still within him that makes him one of the greatest heroes. And I think this is the moment that made him one of the greatest heroes. Is not just how good he can fight, how good he can outsmart criminals, but when he really needs to, he can sit down and just
be a person.
Be a person, exactly. Yeah,
it's good.
I'm gonna need a minute here.
Yeah, that was heavy, dude.
Yeah.
That was heavy.
We will miss you, Kevin. We will miss you. On behalf of every Batman fan, you were one of the best.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
But with that, let's move on to the weekly preview here. Probably a little less sad. A lot of just forewarning, a lot of R-rated stuff.
A lot of movies too. A
lot of movies. It's gonna be a busy weekend, so let's just go right into it. Wednesday, November 16th. So these are already out by the time this episode gets out. In Her Hands is coming to Netflix. This is a documentary about Afghanistan's youngest and first female mayor.
It looks like it was filmed around the time we were pulling out of Afghanistan, correct?
You did read the outline.
I did read the outline.
You did.
And some of the imagery that they show in the trailer was the exact same shots we saw on the news at night of the planes. And so it'll be interesting to see how what exact time period this is filmed in, because there was a lot of stuff going on. And her being the first female, there's a lot of misogynistic things in there that they showed.
Openly misogynistic.
Openly.
Like they're interviewing people and they're just like straight up like, she's not gonna do good because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like, oh.
Dude, there's a camera. This is something you're telling people and you're willing to be known. Like his face isn't even blurred.
No. So it's I think it's going to be great. I like documentaries. And this is a completely almost completely unknown subject to me. Like something very
I
very
had
different.
no idea this person had rise through the ranks.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do this kind of doc? This is a very dangerous area. Would you be willing to kind of go into the trenches on that?
If something ever happened and I was trying to get back into the film industry, this is the kind of stuff I'd want to do. You
would dive into it.
Yes, this is the kind of stuff I'd want. Studios, blah, 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 all that. No, give me something dangerous or like a cameraman for Bear Grylls or something. Like that's something very off-beaten. That's what I would want to do. And this, I would love to do this.
See, I thought it was going to be like what I was kind of thinking, which is, yeah, I'd do it, but I would definitely need something in return. Like if I came back, like the studio would have to fund whatever crazy project I had. Like this is the biggest one for you, one for me moment I would ever have. Also coming out that same day, The Wonder, also a Netflix movie. Not only is it a busy weekend for our rating, it's a busy weekend for Netflix as well.
Yes.
You'll find out here pretty quickly. Psychological thriller starring Florence Pugh. Pugh's character is basically called to investigate a case of a girl. I believe this is set in Ireland, but she's from like London.
England.
She's from England. They're bringing her in as kind of this expert. Basically,
nurse.
This girl claims to have been fasting for over 4 months.
Yep. She is living off the manna she receives from heaven.
Yes.
And it looks right away. It's kind of like, and it looks somewhat interesting, and then it kind of takes a darker turn. And
I think there's going to be some demons involved.
There's some demons involved, and it's like, this is awesome. And I really like her as an actress. She does a great job with her facial expressions, I would say.
But let's move on to Thursday, November 17th. Bantu Mama, also Netflix. Basically, this movie is the Dominican Republic's attempt at an Oscar. That's not my opinion. That is what they say literally in the trailer. I have never... Okay, we talk about Oscar bait movies where it's like you watch a trailer and like, okay, clearly they're going for an Oscar.
Yep.
Never before have I seen a trailer just blatantly say Dominican Republic's attempt at an Oscar.
Yeah.
You know what?
Very emotional, very cinematic.
Yeah.
I think especially after seeing Parasite win, it kind of... I don't want to say opened up the door, but it was like, foreign films can win Oscars.
They had in the past. It was very rare, but yeah, Parasite was. It had been a while, so I do think
it was
right.
a dominant film.
I would say Parasite didn't open the door, but it sort of reopened the door.
Yes,
because you bring up a good point. The trailer doesn't specifically say we're going for international film Oscar. It just says we're going for Oscars here.
Yep.
So I think maybe they are shooting for Best Picture and everything. And so I say wish them good luck.
Good luck.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
We have a very special announcement for y'all this week. The Marshall 6 Movie Theater is partnering with Phantom Events, which means we at the movie theater will be playing Phantom Events. This week, we are playing The Chosen. It is a series, and we will be showing the first 2 episodes. So go online, check it out, or stop in and ask about it. Also, keep an ear to the ground, because there's plenty of Phantom Events coming in the future.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
But also coming out that same day, A Christmas Story Christmas coming to HBO Max. This is the sequel to the classic Christmas movie that came out nearly 40 years ago. Let's get a few things out of the way here. I'm not a big fan of the original Christmas Story movie. I think it's overrated, personally. And this one just doesn't look good to me either.
Yeah, obviously they're going off nostalgia. There's going to be littered with jokes and references to half the trailer is just references to the first movie.
How many jokes do you think they're going to make about the Red Ryder gun? ballpark it.
Oh,
10 to 15 at least.
10, yeah. They even go to the same mall with the same thing, and he says, "Don't let Santa kick you in the face." And then everybody's like, "What?"
Which also, this is one of the reasons why I don't like that first movie, is they're like, who kicks a child in the face?
Santa does.
I don't care.
I'm sorry, kids, but
That's
Santa
just,
does.
no.
Don't be on his naughty list.
Well, then,
I think if you're a diehard fan of The Christmas Story, or you like it a lot and you watch it every year, I think you'll probably like this one.
if you're a diehard fan of A Christmas Story, though, just wait a couple days, and I'm sure A Christmas Story is going to start playing 24/7.
Yeah.
Even though it's November, by the way.
Still happens.
Yeah, let's bring that up. A Christmas movie coming out in November. We got to stop this.
Yeah,
man.
that's not.
We got to stop this. I'm putting my foot down.
I want to.
If I'm ever elected president, my first law is going to be no Christmas movie shall be released until December 1st.
Perfect.
Mark my words. Get on that, Biden. But let's move into Friday, November 18th. The big releases here. We got some all over the map.
Yes.
But they're pretty much all rated R, so buckle up. Coming out first here is The Menu. In some areas, this might already be in theaters. In some areas, it might be a week later. I don't know.
Yeah,
my website was weird,
it was
but I know
goofy.
it's coming to Marshall this weekend.
Yeah.
But my thing didn't say it was.
I've seen trailers and posters at theaters for a very long time for this movie.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about this one. But looking at the trailer, so you've got Anna Taylor-Joy, you got Nicholas Hoult, you got Ralph Fiennes in this movie. That's a star-studded trio right there. We're big fans of Anna Taylor-Joy here. Yep. Number one fan.
And Ralph.
Number one and number two. I give you number one.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Ralph Fiennes is always great. I'm a big fan of Nicholas Hoult. I think he's a little bit of an underrated actor.
All right.
And I knew nothing of this. I somehow had never seen a trailer or whatever before I started doing prep for this.
Yeah.
Somehow I always see a clip or two.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen anything. So I started watching the trailer. I'm like, okay, pretty standard. Looks like it's going to be something for the foodies.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be like Chef or Ratatouille, a movie that makes you want to eat good food.
Yeah.
And then it turns into the greatest game ever played, like hunting humans thing.
Yeah.
like that.
It reminds me of like just a mixture of all those hunting human movies that have came out in the past year, or
but I didn't expect that going into this one.
Yeah, but who'd watch a foodie movie?
Oh, there's fans out there.
That's true. That's
Jon Favreau's Chef is a big one.
Yeah.
Also coming out that same weekend. I just thought of a really bad joke. I don't know if I want to say now. Speaking of people who love eating, Bones and All is coming out that same weekend.
Very good.
To simplify it, it's a movie about cannibals starring Timothée Chalamet.
Yep.
Now, here's what I find interesting. With The Menu, like I said, I hadn't really seen anything going into it. With this movie, I had seen like a different trailer, and then they released, a second trailer closer to the movie. Are they changing their marketing on this? Because this latest trailer, I feel like, is very different than the first one I saw.
I've only seen one, and this one was very romantic. It reminded me of True Romance by Quentin Tarantino. Mm-hmm. The two lovebirds and like killing people. That's what it reminded me of. But I haven't seen that second trailer.
So the first trailer I watched was focusing more on the girl. It made her seem like she was going to be the main part of this story.
Oh, okay, yep.
And it was her journey. And Timothée Chalamet was like a secondary character.
Mm-hmm.
This recent trailer I watched that was released later seemed more like the girl's barely in it.
Yeah, it's mostly the guy. It's mostly Timothy.
I'm wondering if they thought nobody's going to come and want to watch our cannibal movie. Let's show more shots of Timothée Chalamet shirtless.
Yeah.
A shirtless Chalamet, if you will.
Ooh.
And see if we can get in the crowd that way, because he's so hot right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm thinking the one you're describing is the first one I saw, maybe.
Okay.
Where it was they call it like a horror romance.
Yeah. Which is kind of different.
Yeah. But I don't really know what to expect going into this movie.
Do you think he goes by Tim or Timothy?
I've heard more Timothy, I think.
Really? I'd call him Tim.
I think, it might be one of those you have to be like really close friends with him to call him Tim.
Then you call him T-Dog.
And then, yeah, you would call him T-Dog.
I'd call him T-Dog.
And I feel like he would just kind of shrug it off.
You'd kind of be like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't know you.
Security. How did you get in my house?
How did you get in here?
Also coming out that same weekend, She Said, also coming out to theaters. This is the story that led to the bombshell that showed the true dark side of Hollywood.
Yes.
From what I could tell, pretty much everyone who worked in Hollywood knew this. I remember when this story came out. This is the story that the New York Times did on Harvey Weinstein and basically started the Me Too movement as we know it today. Yeah, I remember when I was young, I was naive. I wanted to go work for Hollywood, and then I saw all this other stuff. I'm like, oh, there's
a lot going on.
It's
out
not
there.
good over there. And then you find out, and then you like look back, and it's like, oh, pretty much everyone knew, and no one said anything.
Yep.
Everyone talks about like Seth MacFarlane joked about this openly.
Yeah.
In like it was either the Oscars or the Golden Globes, whatever one he showed.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
There was a handful of people that all jokingly talked about this.
Like there was clips coming out where it was like, we were warned. Nobody picked up on the warning signs and everything. And like he's made jokes on Family Guy and everything that have aged because of this and all that. And it's like, oh, so that made me feel not great.
Yeah.
But this is essentially the story of how that story came out. The reporters that hunted down the leads, got people to finally speak on the record, all that sort of stuff. This trailer really gives me Spotlight movie vibes.
Yes, Spotlight is what
I
I'm thinking.
love Spotlight. It's one of my favorite movies of the past decade. So if it's anything like this, I'm down for it.
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Also coming out this weekend, The People We Hate at the Wedding. This is coming straight to Amazon Prime, starring Kristen Bell, Ben Platt, and Allison Janney. Basically, they are 3 family members who get invited to their half-sister's wedding all the way over in London. They have to try to be on their best behavior, and they fail at that quicker than it took me to write this sentence. I'm assuming there's a bigger gap in time than the trailer is implying, but it really does look like they didn't even try here.
Yeah, and it the one scene, it's like, oh, they're in London. The one girl's getting super, super drunk, and it's like, oh, she's wearing a Stars and Stripes bikini in the middle of the river
USA,
drinking. Yeah,
USA,
it's like, oh,
USA.
Boy. It looks funny. The one prop I will give to this movie, I think it's going to be an okay movie. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to be, oh, that's the funniest movie of the year. But they were playing a song by Wet Leg in the trailer, and that is a new hot up and coming band, probably for about a year. I've been listening to them, but love the song. As soon as I heard that in the trailer, I was like, I'm probably gonna watch this. The song hooked me.
Also coming out that weekend is probably one that I'm actually most looking forward to, surprisingly, Slumberland. This is coming straight to Netflix. Jason Momoa movie where after losing her father, a little girl goes to sleep one night only to end up in this other world known as Slumberland, a.k.a. the dream world.
Yep, not the place where you buy beds.
Yes,
and
not sponsored.
Yep. Unless you want to give us some money.
We're not going to say no.
Yeah. We could put 2 beds up here and talk about movies.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, Slumberland. But basically, this while they're in this world, they have to find this hidden treasure, so to speak. And because of that, it really kind of gave me some Peter Pan vibes. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like, this world where you can kind of remain being a child, and you could be young and free and have fun and these adventures with pirates and all this other stuff and everything. And I'm a super big fan of the Peter Pan world and everything, so that kind of really drew me in.
Yeah, and I think seeing Jason Momoa in much more of a fun family, not quite necessarily dad character, but like a fun older brother that's nice to you character.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
And he's got a bit of a gut,
yeah.
And he's got like fang teeth and some horns. Like, I think he's gonna do. I think he really enjoyed making this film. It's not as heavy as his superhero roles. It's not as heavy as some of the action films he's in. It's a fun. I'm a cool guy, and we're doing fun stuff. We're hunting for treasure. Like, it looks cool. It looks fun.
There's even a line in there where he like tells her if we're having too much fun, we're like in trouble or something like that. And
yeah,
he's like. Then later on he goes, "Well, I'm having fun." He's like, "Wait, I thought you said we couldn't have fun." He's like, "No, I said you couldn't have fun. If I'm not having fun, then I'm not doing my job right."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was his actual mindset on set every day.
Yeah.
But finally, coming out this weekend is Spirited, coming to Apple TV Plus. Another Christmas movie.
Yep.
Should we just skip it? And we're going to outlaw Christmas movies coming out in November. I mean, we should because of time, but it is a Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds movie,
Yeah,
so we
it's
have
gonna
to
be
talk
huge.
about it. Basically, a new take on the Christmas Carol story. Ryan Reynolds, being Ryan Reynolds, he annoys the first ghost into basically calling it off. They try to do the Christmas Carol thing, the ghost with chains, and then he just kind of annoys him because he's Ryan Reynolds. He is kind of doing his same shtick.
Yep.
If you like that shtick, you're going to like this. If you're annoyed with it by now, I get it. I'm not annoyed by it, but I get it. But the Will Ferrell ghost, he's basically the ghost Christmas present. He's like, no, I'll just take it over from here. I still think we can
change him.
We can change him and everything. He takes on the job. They go through musical shenanigans. I'm a sucker for musicals.
I like musicals too.
I think this will be fun. But with that, let's move into some number one recommends. I can't remember who went first last week, but I've got your name first here.
So my recommendation this week is a Netflix special, The Cabinet of Curiosities, made by Guillermo del Toro. I hope I say that right. He has a tough name to spell. Well, as you can see, tough name to spell and say. But I absolutely love this. I'm about halfway through. It is a collection of 8 stories told by separate directors. And what I really like about this is he is giving them the opportunity to make what they want to make and just saying, I really like you. I want to have you in this show with me. And the beginning of every episode, he is standing with his box, his cabinet of curiosities, and he's talking a little soliloquy or a little story about what you're going to see without telling you anything about it. And he pulls out the item and then sets it there. And then there's a little figurine of the director that they're talking about. So I think it's a great way for him to also give back to other directors and help along other people. But fantastic. I don't know how much like control he had, or if he just said, you have 100%, do whatever you want to do. Or like, he just said, yeah, that's great. Let's put it in here. So I highly recommend it. It's very good. Give it a watch. Great stories.
I'm going to recommend Enola Holmes 2. I talked about how some of my expectations for this movie when we previewed it. It met a lot of those expectations, but I'm not going to talk so much about the story that the movie is. I'm going to talk about the real life story that actually kind of inspired this, because the case surrounding this, I didn't realize going in, is based on a real life thing that happened in London. Look up a group called the Matchstick Girls. And basically you'll find the story of what is essentially one of the first like strikes ever made in like a corporate company kind of way. Basically, a bunch of these girls who were working in these matchstick factories were in terrible working conditions. They finally were like trying to stand up for them and all that. Then one of the higher ups of this, it wasn't a union yet, but most historians kind of point to this real life event and was like, this kind of did the snowball effect where it led to more strikes. And then you kind of look at the industrial age in America and you start seeing unions and all that. And now we still talk about that and still deal with that today. And so you can really kind of trace its origins to this story that is surrounding this Enola Holmes movie, which I really like. I really like when directors do kind of take their characters, their fictional characters, and like, well, let's bring attention to this lesser known thing and kind of tie them together. And I think they tie them together very well. I think Millie Bobby Brown is great in this movie. She's really fun to watch. So if you want to see a little bit of history, and look it up a little bit more afterwards. It's really an interesting story, especially when you consider all the historical context after the fact. But that is going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. Be sure to let us know what you've been watching down in the comments down below. And for myself and Ryan Meyerberg, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we're sorry this episode took so long.